All right, guys, we're here at the lake. This is a fun lake to fish. It can be, I guess. It can be a fun lake to fish because we've got out on the main lake. We've got very deep. It's a super deep. I mean, it goes 100 and something feet deep. Clear reservoir, and it's a lot of fun to fish. But I tend to, if I can get away with fishing something more power fishing, or flipping and pitching, I do tend to prefer that. So we're up in one of these sort of creek arms, and this is totally different than the main lake. It's almost night and day different. You've got stained water, you got muddy bottom. It's very shallow in here. Most of this is under probably 4 feet all the way back, and it makes a bend in and around. So a pretty decent little size creek arm, but it's totally different than the main lake. And there is one other of these. It's a lot smaller. It's probably a quarter of the size of this one. So if we find them in here, we can probably go somewhere else and find a few more. If they're in here, we're going to have a whole lot of fun together. If not, well, it could be a little bit of a boring day, but come on, let's go. We're going to flip some of this. I don't know if you can see it with the way that the boat's facing, but you got some stick ups here, and we're going to flip into some of this and just see if anything's there, and if not, we'll move back a little farther and see what we find. If we can't find anything, we might have to go out to the main lake and see what else we can come up with for a pattern. But here we go, let's go. I just sprayed a little line relaxer on there. That's what I was spraying on it. This one's made by, it's line conditioner. It's made by Bass Pro Shops. I'm fishing fluorocarbon, and it just relaxes the line a little bit and makes it come out just a little smoother. And I personally like to make a cast, spray it, then wind it all up, and then the next time I cast, it kind of flings it and spreads it on the rest of the line, but it's not quite so slippery on my hand. If you spray it in the beginning, it'll kind of, the spray when you cast with a bait caster will spray, and your hand will get kind of slippery, and it can be hard to grab the reel sometimes. When bringing a bait through cover like this, I try not to force it. You're just trying to gently drag and hop it over a limb. Just if you have to, just shake your rod just enough, just to kind of hop it over a limb, but trying to get it quickly back down the bottom contact. I'm just working a creature bait back. If you can see that, just a Texas rig creature bait, and when I'm doing that, I try not to get caught with my rod too far back, because if I did, it would take me a long time to wind down to set the hook. I try to do movements that are bringing it up, and then I reel back down, and I bring it up, and I reel back down. But I try not to get caught too high as I'm hopping it and dragging it, because if I did, I got nowhere to go with it. Especially if the fish picks it up and comes towards me, I'm in pretty big trouble. Okay, we moved up a little bit in the creek, and just got a pretty good one on a spinnerbait. We can talk about it in just a second. We had that absolutely down there. He hit that hard. That is a good one. I don't know if you can see that. Let's have a look. I can see what you see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Look at that fish. That's a good one. I mean, just a beautiful fish. Good, healthy fish. should shut this off for you guys. I love, out in the boat, I love to listen to books on Audible. I don't think it weighs that much. Yeah, my scales, it'll act up every once in a while, and I have to restart it. I don't want to keep this fish out of the water too long here. Okay, we have 4.25, so 4 1/4 is what this fish weighed. We'll put her back. Beautiful. All right, so we'll talk about that for just a second. 4 1/4, that's a beautiful fish. Here in Maine, you know, we get them bigger for sure, but it's not all the time that we get a really big fish. So that was not a bad fish. And so what I've got is this is the River to Sea Bling spinnerbait. I find if I had just one spinnerbait, it would be this one, and it is in a 1/2 ounce, and that is the size that I would use more often than not, if you can see that. So the River to Sea Bling, and then I've put a Keitech trailer on it. I used to fish a spinnerbait a lot, and now I just use it selectively. There are times when it works better than anything else, so I'm doing my best to learn what those times are and just to fish it in those times. I like it in a little bit of stained water. I like it when you can, like this one, you can slow roll and then just bump it and real quickly, or pop the rod tip, and that tends to be when you get a reaction bite, or when you hit something. So I try my best, if there's a long log, I try to go right down the log, so I'm bumping into it a little bit, or just slightly crisscrossing over it so I hit it. And when I do, I actually get real close to it. I know it's coming, and I speed up just a little bit, and then when I hit it, I stop it for just a 1/2 second. I'm not going to let this drop down a foot or two. I'm just going to let it stop, so it the skirt puffs up, because it was coming at me pretty fast. It stops, the skirt puffs up, and the blades stop, and maybe it sinks just a couple inches, and then I'm going to start it right back up and start winding. Usually right in that time, that's when the fish will hit it. That's more often than not. But I've got, I think this is like a, I don't know, 4.3 or something like that inch Keitech trailer. Again, I used to fish it with a trailer hook all the time. I mean, I never threw a spinnerbait without a trailer hook, but I never fished something on the back of it either, like a small swim bait. I never put anything on it, and I found that my hookup ratio is much better with a trailer hook. But once I put some type of a trailer on it, seems like they key in on it a little bit more, and I don't need that trailer hook, and it's a little more weedless without the trailer hook. Now, if I'm getting fish that's missing it, it happens a couple times. Oh, I'm going to put a trailer hook on and connect to those fish, but I'm going to try it first without it if I can. So we'll make some more casts and see what we can find. But that was a fun one. I was working it. There's kind of comes into this area. This is, again, I would call it like a spawning arm, but it's like a pocket off the main lake, and we worked through some wood and some brush with a creature bait, flipped to that and nothing, and then we've come up here, and there's like a channel that works in here, and the channel comes right up close to the shore here, and there's a tree that sticks down into the water, so I just casted right up to it and just worked down beside it and just kept flaring the bait, and it absolutely clobbered it. something to pay attention to when you're using a spinnerbait. If it's just in open water and you want to just, I mean, absolutely make a bomber cast out there, I don't worry about it so much. I'm covering a lot of water. How it hits, what I'm talking about is how it hits the water. So if it goes into the water, and I mean absolutely just slaps into the water, if you're in a big area, I'm not super concerned about it. But if you're casting to something, to that, like in that case it was to a log, specific pieces of cover, I'm going to do my very best to when I throw that spinnerbait, I'm going to go close to the water and stop it just before the water. So I'm going to cast it in there just before the water, kind of stop it and let it just kind of settle in. Like think of a high dive, and sure, you could come off there and do a cannonball and make a giant splash, but you see these divers and they go in and absolutely perfectly nice in, teeny little splash. And so that's what you're trying to do with your spinnerbait when you go into the water. You're trying to make a teeny little splash, so it's right there. It doesn't make a big ruckus, it doesn't scare them, but the spinnerbait it's there in their face and they react to it. Because typically when you're casting to cover, same is true with a creature bait or a jig, but you want it to be right there, so they're surprised by it and they have nothing else to do but either swim away or go after it. You know, it surprises them and then go after it. So the only thing they can do, they can't, if it was a human, you'd probably see them swinging and hitting it, trying to get it out of their face, you know, but if it's a fish, the only thing they can do is put it in their mouth. So they put it in their mouth. They might not even want to eat it, but they put it in their mouth, they try to crush it, and they'll probably try to blow it right back out. But if you're quick, you can catch those fish. So you're really wanting the element of surprise, so it startles them. It's, you know, it's when you're say, you know, you're hiding around a corner or in your, you know, someone's, you know, your child's closet or something, and they come into the room and you jump out of them and scare them. And sometimes you don't even have to say anything, but if you're just there, they're so surprised, they jump, they might swing, they jump back, you know, something happens, they react to it. That's what you're looking for with the spinnerbait. You're trying to just make it appear in front of them and they have to react to it. Now as I'm working back here, I'm trying to find spots that a fish might stop as he works his way back and goes to spawn. There's some spots all along the way that in the past I've seen spawning beds, so I do know they spawn back here. And I'm just looking for places they might stop. So I'm following the creek channel in, but then I'm also looking for, oh goodness, is there a stump or is there a log or something in the water that might hold a fish, that's where they'd stop, just like that last fish. And there's a beaver house over here. I'll probably make a few casts or pitches into that. Just looking for anything that a fish might stop on his way back to where he's supposed to be. Okay guys, quick update. We just caught a smallmouth up here. This is a bait I haven't used much, but it's called the Dark Sleeper, and caught a smallmouth off of it, 1/2 ounce. Pretty impressed so far, but haven't used it that much. What's going on, why that fish was there was, if you look up right here, you can see just coming through those bushes there's a small amount of current, and so there's fresh water flowing in here, and I believe there's a few fish. Doesn't mean we'll catch them, but I've gotten a few bites that I've missed, and should have turned the camera on, forgot to, and but we'll see if we can catch another one on camera anyway.